You thought you got rid of me, huh? Joke's on you. I have no life and nothing better to do. Anyways, you know what it's time for? Another album exchange. We've done 3 of these so far, 2 last year and 1 back in 2023, and y'all seem to really enjoy these, so we're gonna keep it going. Both because I love music and I love featuring other viewers on my channels to vibe with, and also so I can collect new artists to check out. But anyways, how does this work? The lucky folks selected, or patrons and members of my $25 tier and higher, each send me an album to listen to and review, and I send them each back an album I want them to listen to and review. Digital exchange, by the way. Sending people vinyls or CDs would just be extremely expensive, impractical, and even more niche than my weird furry slash NASCAR slash music slash essay channel already is. Plus, I own exactly 0 vinyls and only have like 12 physical albums anyway. And everybody got to review their albums in their own unique way. I had people send me videos, PNG icons, VR type clips, and you know, whatever they creatively would like to do. Anyways, to reduce editing load and for brevity, I reduced the amount of folks selected for this exchange to 12 plus the 1 patron I have, the $25 tier. Hi Brian, I love you, friendo. And this might actually be the most eclectic selection I've received so far. And before we begin, this video is almost certainly not going to be able to be monetized because I'm playing copyrighted music throughout it. So if you feel like tipping for the work I put in, I actually have one-time tip links in the description. Of course, I do these videos for free and just for funsies, but you know, doing all this work for it, it's nice to get a little bit of monetary benefit, but of course I don't expect it if you can't afford it. But if you feel really generous, my Patreon link is also in the description as well, or you can become a member here. I just restructured things on Patreon with the upcoming removal of the per creation payment model, so go check out the new tiers and new benefits. But other than that, go ahead and just tell me what your favorite album is or an album you would send to me in the description before we get started. And while you're down there, go ahead and hit the like button and hit the subscribe button to keep up with all my videos. So let's begin with our first exchange. Returning, we have Luca, who sent me the album Sounds from Outer Space by Space Cadets.
Dogfighting, fast as lightning. Dogfighting, we're the ones who do the hunting.
We have Passage by the Carpenters at Home, but instead of the beauty of culling occupants of interplanetary craft, you get Raid. Delivered by way of Scott Stapp, apparently. That's not really fair, though. I actually don't dislike this album. Raid is by far its lowest point, though, and possibly one of the worst individual tracks of this entire exchange. Other than that, this just reminds me a little Auto Heart at times. The melodies and immersive song structures are there, but just a little more mastering away from being fully realized. With maybe a little more refinement, this could have been a sleeper hit for me with some of the more experimental and spacey tracks, but as it is, I can't go above a 6 out of 10. And Luca received Wonder What's Next by Chevelle.
So lay down.
Ah yes, Chevelle. One of the 3 or 4 rock bands that made up the edgy "fuck you dad, I'll do what I want" moments of my middle school teenage years. Wonder What's Next is probably the Chevelle record that made me decide, okay, yeah, this band is pretty fucking good. Now I myself, I'm very picky with my music. With most records, there's a couple of tracks that most people tend to either skip or not pay much attention to. Take Saint Anger for example, well, actually no, that's a bad example, as that whole record is worth skipping. Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory is a masterpiece of early 2000s rock. I can put that CD on and all my buddies will jam out to the entire thing, but when Cure for the Itch comes on, we'll probably not pay much attention to it. Every record has at least a few skippable tracks. However, Wonder What's Next is special, because the only track on there that I didn't personally like was Grab Thy Hand. It's sort of an Imagine Dragons Lightning and the Thunder thing going on. Just please, say something besides "come through." My particular flavor of the tism isn't a fan of excessive repetition. That particular track just really didn't hit like the rest of them. The Red, Send the Pain Below, and Closure are probably my top 3 in no particular order. Even though the record came out more than 20 years ago and definitely has a distinctive of its time sound, hearing it conjures images of the simpler days where video games were fun, you can actually own stuff without subscriptions to everything, where social media didn't exist and Donald Trump wasn't president. You know, the better times. But to close off here, Wonder What's Next will probably definitely hold a place in my heart next to records like Hybrid Theory, Americana, Fallen, American Idiot, and a few others. Thanks for listening. Back to you, Mex.
From Purist Puppy, who actually filled in late for a dropout, so I thank them for getting this done on a shortened deadline, Chinese Football's self-titled record.
No.
going in, I expected this to be one of those math rock bands where the name is just a weird conjunction of unrelated things that have no real deeper meaning. Like, something that makes you say, what does that have to do with anything? And to my surprise, nope. This band is actually from Wuhan, and their songs are all in Mandarin, and they are also obnoxiously hard to Google. Jesus Christ, the more I research this band, the weirder it gets. Apparently they are essentially a direct stylistic clone of the American band American Football. But the sound I was drawing a comparison to, especially in the first 2/3 of this album, was minus the bear. In fact, tell me these two songs don't sound strikingly similar to one another.
We'll watch her rolling from the south.
By the way, I rather like this comment on the Chinese football song Electronic Girl. The strangest thing about this album, though, is when the album opens up in its last third into a much more theatric soundscape, and specifically on the song Goodbye Milu, where it feels like a very emotional send-off. It sounds actually a lot more like an unrequited track than anything. Fascinating little gem of a math rock album, 7.5 out of 10. And the album drawn for Purist Puppy was Pack Up the Cats by Local H.
I apologize if this comes up short, as I was chosen by the Wheel of Random. But I did try my best. The album I was given was Pack Up the Cats by Local H. When given this album, I was generally scared as I am open to music of all varieties. I just knew this would be some sort of rock or metal, which is something I personally don't listen to daily. But then I hit play. I was instantly thrown into a local bar where a band I'd never heard of just starts tearing into their music. The album felt like a one-take masterpiece in the casual ears of mine. Upon first listening, I couldn't stop humming with the guitars. I was singing, and I couldn't stop laughing at the cat noises. I can't focus. I love it. I actually do. I hate that I love it. But overall, I was amazed. The first song, I was scared that it was going to be an album with very little to say and more of a fun project made by friends. But that's when I realized this album is trying to tell a story. The album seems like a long road to fame, struggling in different categories of life, all while in the pursuit for the fame of the band. It starts off as a young man living with his cats, practicing making the best songs they can. Isolation feels overwhelming, and the protagonist needs to keep making music to stay at bay. Later, finds a girlfriend that her and her family don't approve of his job, but she's fine and good. Everything's fine, everything's good. And won't admit till his drinking/smoking problem becomes apparent. On the day of the big performance, he leaves it all on the line, and what I assume is some sort of "I love that you hate my success," telling haters this ain't made for you. After a mental breakdown from people leaving his show, he comes to realize that he was never truly alone until he puts up barriers and misses the grind to prove everyone wrong about how right he is. Overall, I love the songs. The intricacy of the audio being split between both ears like you're here in person, and the cowbells and maracas sprinkled in. I would give this album an 8 out of 10 as there were parts I didn't particularly care to listen to, but it will be added to my rock playlist.
Following that, we have patron Sakaha sending me The Specials by The Specials. One thing I always promised on this channel was being honest about what I hear in terms of music and the music I review, specifically when it comes to, my songs of the year and stuff. But I think it can carry over to this as well. This is not my genre. I don't normally listen to COD reggae. Another one of my album exchange participants who unfortunately had to drop out had sent me a Jean-Jacques Perry album. And it was also not my genre, but I knew right away what I was getting into and didn't really need to analyze it any further. I just had an enjoyable experience. The opposite is true here, where I knew exactly what I was getting into and did not like it. Half the songs on this album have the rhythm of Gourmet Race from Kirby Superstar, so I kept thinking about that stupid Vine with Donald Trump doing that idiotic dance. I'm never going to be able to unhear this. Concrete Jungle by the Specials has a very oddly similar cadence to Adults Ruin Everything from Fairly Odd Parents. Let's see if you can hear it too.
Concrete jungle, animals act to me. Concrete jungle, ain't safe on the streets.
Adults ruin everything with all their rules and laws. Adults ruin everything. We must fight back because...
No rating, but what in the fucking wild hell is Monkey Man? That song needs to be studied. So I god moded this next one, and I sent Sakaha the masterpiece, Angelic to the Core by Corey Feldman.
Together, we won't change. We said forever. We were one and we were the same.
I wasn't sure if I would enjoy whatever Mex picked for me. Little did I know that little weasel had given me an experience. Angelic to the Core by Corey Feldman, the actor, the Goonies, Friday the 13th, is an utter mess of a concept album where it is hard to try and work out what is going to come next. From the first song, it becomes very apparent that Feldman is attempting to project his voice in the same way Michael Jackson used to. But unfortunately, he really lacks the range to do so, and it honestly at some points comes off as almost disingenuous. At some points, it ends up sounding like he's doing a D&D voice. And just when you've settled down into the genre, Fred Durst shows up. And then, so does Snoop Dogg. He jumps to rap, he jumps to rock. It's so confusing. He's apparently trying to tell a story of good versus evil this whole album, but it very much just comes across as, let's be angry at the bad people. However, despite me saying this album is bad, it's awful, I adore it. There's so much personal energy here, and it's just a guy doing what he wants. And I can't be mad at that. He's just having a great time with his friends. Honestly, in many ways, the song reminds me of the fandom. He probably knows it's not like the highest quality thing in the world, but he enjoys it, so he's gonna do it. So honestly, just sit back, give it a listen, and let him take you on his weird, badly performed, all over the place trip. I wouldn't have it any other way. I can't really give it a number rating though.
Next up, we have my friend Jezza the Bat, who sent me Everything to Everyone by Barenaked Ladies.
And everyone is to me. Another postcard, chimpanzee.
You think just because I put a bunch of adult alternative on my 2012 list means VH1 Core is surely gonna land with me? Well, think again. I am way more fickle than that, and I am absolutely willing to ruin friendships over an album. Just kidding, Jezza, please don't hate me for roasting your album. But this one, guys, this was way too easy. A lot of these songs sound like they could have been played on the pharmacy overhead radio, and Unfinished sounds like it could have been in a commercial for, let's say, I don't know, a Snickers bar. This didn't do it for me. Odds Are is what I was hoping to hear, and what I got was Haven't Met You Yet by Michael Bublé.
I just haven't met you yet.
No, that's not even it. At least Bublé knows his way around a creative production choice. What I got with this was that Matthew West song where he gives Santa his phone number like a booty call.
Hurry up, Santa Claus. Here's my number just in case your reindeer get lost.
Closest I came to liking a song on this was maybe Katie, which was a pretty sweet song and kind of cute. Also, Take It Outside has some good vocals, and I really like the message of it.
Everything will always be alright when we go shopping.
Meanwhile, Shopping is like if Perry Grip made Thrift Shop by Macklemore but didn't get the joke. And anyways, the joke's on them anyway. This has been done better before.
Snapped at the frozen food, chicken pot pie. Rolling to the produce, that's a better buy.
Production's nice, it's easy on the ears, but this is way too kitschy and cheesy for me to really get on board. 4.5 out of 10. And I sent Jezza back Akrasia. Akrasia? I don't know how that's pronounced, but that album by Steven.
Until I see the light. If I see you in the morning, you can tell me I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot, yeah, I'm an idiot.
Akrasia is the feeling of knowing that you are doing the wrong thing, but you are doing it because of weakness of will. You know you should be doing something better, but at the moment you just can't. I think a lot of us go through that feeling in general, and I don't think this is something that's very uncommon. And I love that about this album, Akrasia by Steven. I think the idea of putting a concept like that into a concept album where all of the songs are related to this one overarching idea is a perfect way of talking about these issues that I think a lot of us have internally, and a lot of us go through at some point in our lives. Starting the album with a song called Gratitude and talking about how you can be thankful for everything and understand that things are really good, but also feel that hopelessness and the weakness of will inside of you was a really poignant way to start off. I also like how in Gratitude he has multiple people saying thank you. It's not just one person saying thank you. There is a global gratefulness here that is expressed on the first song, which I thought was really interesting to start an album like this with. The first half of the album really sits you into this idea of a lack of will or a self-doubt or hopelessness that keeps you stagnant. It's almost like an apathy kind of feeling in it. You hear this in all of the first half of the album. I think the more poignant ones, one of them in particular, Tracer is what it's called, talking about how the thing that is keeping you going right now is actually either a game or a form of media. And you know it's wrong and you know you shouldn't continue doing this to yourself, but you don't know what else to do, so you just keep cycling back to it. I think a lot of us can feel that way on the inside. The album starts turning around at the song Delilah, where he starts talking about how there is something more, and there is a knowledge here at this point that the singer wants to improve and wants to get out of this cycle. The album from there out starts talking about how you can get better and how you need to start moving forward, but you have to have a desire to start moving forward in order to actually succeed on that path. And there are going to be mistakes along the way, and there are going to be nights that maybe get a little bit too spicy, and that kind of thing, but through the mistakes you start learning more about yourself, and eventually you get to where you want to be. And I think that's such a powerful message. The ending song being Hell of a Night, saying, you know, this night didn't go as well as planned. I lost my keys, I did that, I did this, but I know that this is the path I have to walk, and I know this is the way that I can move forward. What a powerful message to bring, and what a wonderful album to show it in.
Fellow Weasel Rennie sent me How to Leave Town by Car Seat Headrest. I thank Rennie for sending me this album. It finally solved the conundrum I was facing with Will Toledo's famed, unabashedly furry, indie award bait darling project. I would prefer to have my car seat headrest sound like this. And I don't want my car seat headrest to sound like this. This was like leaving a door less open, minus life worth missing to salvage it. A bit overly long, especially the first track. The scholars say hello, by the way. A few decently relatable moments, such as the post-grad struggles depicted in America Never Been, and the interesting dream of Obama coming to Will's birthday party and You're in Love with Me. And I was very fascinated by the song I Want You to Know I'm Awake, I Hope That You're Asleep, which sounds like a direct follow-up to Strangers from Twin Fantasy. But the interesting moments alone didn't fully bring me on board. It still is undoubtedly Car Seat Headrest, just not the one I'm over the moon for. 6 out of 10, well written, but kind of forgettable. Being sent back to Remy was the album Black Clouds and Silver Lining Special Edition by Dream Theater.
This is how we live, strange although it seems.
there, I'm Ren, and I was given Black Clouds and Silver Linings, the special edition, from the Dreamscape. So, I was going to this album completely blind cause I've never heard of this band before, which I saw as a fun thing to see and was kinda looking forward into it. But when I saw the length song ratio was averaging out to 10 whole minutes per song, honestly, it got me a little worried. But then all that worry washed away with the first song, A Nightmare to Remember, which was such a strong start for the album that it gave me high hopes, and it definitely delivered those hopes. Most of the songs in this album ended up working really well and benefiting with their long lengths, making it a really immersive experience to listen to each of the songs. But the length does work as a double-edged sword, because the more immersive the song tries to be, the more of a commitment you need to give each listening, which is made harder by their lengths. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just something I think I should point out so you can keep this in mind if you decide to give it a listen, which I highly recommend. Now, most of the songs in this album are in a range from a nice listen to a great song where you can easily bury yourself in its little universe that it creates. With the best one being The Count of Tuscan, I hope I didn't butcher that name, which is such a great song and, funnily enough, by far the longest song in the album, packing an impressive 19 minutes in length, which is a lot, I confess. But it's definitely worth it, with every second of the song mattering in some way, either by being the main chord of the song, or building up the scene so that the main part can shine brighter. Now, this album does have a couple of not so great songs, but none of them straight up ruin the album in any way that really matters. They are more of a boring song that you just forget just as the next one comes up. I'm looking at you, Last Songs in Icepack Part 2. But since this is the deluxe edition with extra songs, I don't really mind it cause someone somewhere will like it, and it's just a bonus for what if you are the more enthusiastic fans of this band who wants more songs from them. So yeah, it's a pretty consistent progressive rock album and a really fun experience altogether. But I do want to point out that I don't really feel that any of those songs blew my socks off or anything, so I'll just be giving this up a very respectable 8 out of 10, which I feel is more than enough for it.
Following that, we have Eric James, who sent over the album Digital Dreamscape by Desx. As we go further along with these album exchanges, it's inevitable we're going to encounter someone requesting independent artists. And I'm torn on what rules I will have to set with this, because there's a very clear boundary I will never cross. And that boundary is punching down. Thankfully, we didn't have to worry about that here because I found the album very well produced and nicely written, but it didn't leave me any further impressions. I was given an accompanying document which dives into the making of, and look, this is the kind of thing that assumes I loved the album, which, if we're being honest, I was simply more indifferent to it than anything. So no, I didn't read this. Sorry. Not rating this because it's very much not my genre, but if you are deep into this genre of electronic, I definitely recommend it. And Eric James received the album The Carbon Copy Silver Lining by Fair to Midland.
So Bex gave me the carbon copy Silver Lining by Fair to Midland. I'd heard of Fair to Midland before from their song Dance of the Manatee, which someone played in a Marbles on stream with song request enabled. I like the melodies of that song, particularly the pre-chorus. The mixing is ace on that track too. Can't say the same for this though. In fact, all the production's pretty rough, but I'll cut them some slack since this is both their debut and from before they signed with the major label. I like how Daryl Sutherland's always had that vibrato in him, which I also liked about Dance of the Manatee. Their songs don't really sound all that different from one another. If I had to pick a favorite track, it'd be Informative Timeline. Honorable mentions go to the bridge of With the Weasel and the first and second verse of Seesaw. There was clearly a lot of inspo taken from System of a Down too. I don't know, I was born in 03, so I have no emotional attachment to the middle era of this time, and I have ADHD. I bet you can tell by how the script is written. Definitely gives off "don't mind us, we're just finding our sound vibes." 5 out of 10. I respect it. I said Bex Digital Dreamscape by Desx. If you were to ask me what my favorite genre is, I'd say bass music from the depths of SoundCloud. You know, dubstep and all that. At the same time, it's infuriating in that the big producers have become one-trick ponies while the small producers try to mimic the big producers. There's rarely any innovation because haha funny quarter note headbanger noise is good enough. A few times a year though, you get some concept concept albums, and this one is a true diamond in the rough. Digital Dreamscape has dashes of color bass, complextro, mid-tempo, tear-out, indie, jazz, rap, pirate music, etc. The attention to detail right down to the production techniques is astonishing, and the last song almost made me cry, which never happens. I recommend reading the companion document detailing the making of the album while listening. Easy contender for album of the year in my opinion. Back to you, Max.
Brian Lucha returns again, and they sent me Junior by Röyksopp. Unfortunately, I get one of these every album exchange I do. This album was very easily ignorable. Pleasant enough to be relaxing, but not engaging enough to demand any deep thought or have any particularly groundbreaking comments on. Post-production Mex here. On a second listen of Happy Up Here, I just kind of realized that this song sounds a lot like if 192000 was made by Daft Punk. Reminds me a lot of Genix from a previous exchange, especially in the percussion, but regrettably not much else of note. 5.5 to 6 out of 10. I already had forgotten it by the time I got to scripting this. And I gave Brian the album Skinny Dipping by Stand Atlantic.
Hi, I'm Brian. In return for sending Mex the Junior album by Röyksopp, he gave me Skinny Dipping by Stand Atlantic. I hadn't heard their music before, so this was a fresh listen, and I was very pleased to find they were a fantastic pop-punk band. From what I can tell, the main themes of this album are how it feels to try escaping your complicated feelings in any way possible, and coming up short. In the catchy intro track, Lavender Bones, the singer tries to tough out her pain, to cover it up, but the bruises are all still there. And what's probably my favorite track, Speak Slow, the singer understands all the avoidance they've done has caused a lot of the problems that they're trying to escape from. Sticking with a bad relationship out of poor self-worth and burn in the afterthought, bitterness from ending a bad relationship and lost my cool. A cycle of toxic love and codependence makes it easy to focus on someone other than yourself. There's a lot of pain in these lyrics, and the heavy drums and intricate guitars all portray that deep angst well. There's a lot of range in these 10 tracks, which impressed me quite a bit. New Stand Atlantic fan. My only criticism is probably a skill issue. The lyric can be vague. I had a hard time interpreting what I meant to take away from the tracks, so I'm taking off a point. I rate Skinny Dipping a 9 out of 10. I've already listened to the album like 7 times already. Thanks for the recommendation, Mex.
Up next we have Aquacat, who sent me Zaba by Glass Animals.
Shake my little soul for you, like a toy, and I settle up into a world.
This is what this album sounds like. This was my second and third listen of Zaba, and this album has such a fantastic control of its atmosphere. It's so drippy, like a hot and humid rainforest. Every song has its own identity, and a lot of these are extremely danceable, especially for me, specializing in liquid. A few songs aren't exactly for me, Walla Walla in the intro, for example, but my favorite tracks in here are Toes, Gooey, Pools, which I think is criminally underrated, by the way, Cocoa Hooves, and the last track on the album, JDNT. If you're going to listen to an entire Glass Animals album, you can keep your dreamland. Immerse yourself in the drippy, goopy swamp that is Zaba. 9 out of 10. And Aquacat received One Thing Remains by default.
One Thing Remains really does sound like your typical 2000s rock album, with very similar vibes to other bands of the era. Not to say that it isn't a good album, but I just personally feel that a lot of rock music that came out during this time tended to have a very similar tone and structure to that. My thoughts on initial listen were just that this album sounded a lot like Green Day, Crush 40, and a little bit like Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I know comparing Default to other bands doesn't do the album justice, but again, a lot of rock bands during that time had very similar sounds. But what this album does differently is it throws in a bit of country to mix into the bass line that is rock, mixing acoustic guitar into the electric and even throwing that softer twang into the vocals, really giving it a country sense in a lot of the songs. Which was a very interesting change, so it's not all super rock heavy throughout the entire album. There's a lot of softer pieces in there with a lot of melancholic vocals, which really changed the pace of the album. But just going to highlight one of my personal favorites from the album, Hiding from the Sun. This song really gives off that hard Crush 40 vibe that I love, sounding like something straight out of the Shadow the Hedgehog soundtrack. It truly presents that heavy-hitting rock feel that I was expecting from the full album initially. If I had heard of Default when I was going through my initial rock and grunge phase, this album most likely would have been in the rotation of most listened to pieces. A lot of the music I currently listen to requires a lot more active listening to really get deep into it and hear all of the subtle sounds in the mixing. So it's really nice having an album that I can step back on and just have a more passive listening approach and really just enjoy. Because the rock genre as a whole really puts everything out there for you to hear and doesn't hold back. But overall, One Thing Remains was a really solid album, which I will give an honest rating of 7.5 out of 10. And again, thanks for having me on for the review.
From Red Yoshi Zero, we have Let's Talk About Feelings by Lagwagon. This really felt to me like a diet less than Jake. All riffs, no catchiness, and probably would have stood out a little more to me with a more compelling lead singer and more songs that break the 2-minute mark. This album is 59 minutes long and contains 26 tracks. I had a Barney soundtrack record that rivaled that when I was a kid. That's hardly enough time for any of these songs to develop their own identity, but an identity is not really what it's about. It's just about riffs and chords. And Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Man, what a frustrating project. 3.5 out of 10, maybe 4 on a good day. Sorry. And Red Yoshi Zero was sent the album Polyester Zeal by Red Sun Rising.
So I have been chosen to do an album review by Max. Me and 11 other people were tasked to review an album sent by Max, and we were tasked to send him an album for him to review. I was given Polyester Zeal by Red Sun Rising by Max, and I gave him Lagwagon, Let's Talk About Feelings. Less yapping and more reviewing, let's get into it. First song is gonna be dead rock vibes for some reason, but the 40-second mark is where the song got my interest, but not the first. Though they don't have the hum to them, but the chorus does. I want to give it a 3.5, 3 out of 5. This song reminds me of another song, but I can't put my finger on it, but the chorus is pretty good with the guitar too, so I would give it a good 4 out of 5 overall. I really liked it. By the sounds of it, it sounds like Linkin Park wrote this song. It's a bit metal song, but not something I would put onto a playlist. So I'll give it a 3 out of 5. There are many reasons why not to listen to this song. That's all I could hear from this song. It's a bit slow and I'm not really into it, so I'll give it a 2 out of 5. This song has a nice chill vibe in the beginning, but then it goes into its other side, but not in your face. It's a pretty good song overall, and I like it a lot, so I give it a 4 out of 5. By this point, the songs sound the same like this one. It starts slow, then goes into it, but nothing there to get you hooked on it. Maybe the solo, but other than that, it's the same as the rest, so I give it a 2 out of 5. Get what I said about the last song. I like this one. It might be another song, but I can't remember it. It's a really good song and I will listen to it again, so I give it a 4 out of 5. The song sounds serious, like you hate someone in the song, but it's a good song you would listen to on the radio. Not my kind of thing, but I enjoyed it, so I give it a 4 out of 5. This song is called Awake and yet I'm still asleep. There's not really to enjoy in my opinion. It sounds like a filler song for the album that the record label forced them to put onto it. but overall it's alright, so I give it a 3 out of 5. It starts with a nice acoustic beginning, then I go to this main riff like a modern Green Day song. It's a good song that I'll listen to and will work it out to my friends, so I'll give it a 4 out of 5. I like the bass at the start of the song. It sounds like a Motorhead song, but it has a good metal sound to it and I really enjoyed it. It's one of the best songs from the album, next to Amnesia, so overall I'll give it a 4 out of 5. So overall I'll give the whole album a 4.5 out of 5. It was really good and I did enjoy listening to it. And I want to say thank you to Mix for the opportunity for collabing with them and with other creators too. And I really enjoyed this and I would love to do it again. I'm under like a time frame on this video, this is why I'm going so fast, but thank you, this was great.
My friend Harlow sent me S16 by Woodkid.
You're playing your best role, but the mask shatters. Where are you going, boy? When did you get so low?
What if there was a VNV Nation album that was produced by Seher Galt?
We'll build ourselves up to a towering,
with vocals by Ashkir, and every song sounded like Distant Rubicon 2.
Oh, let me not return. Damn the illusion.
This album perplexed me more than anything, and it probably warrants more listens than I am willing to or have the time to give. It's a very complex, evolving album that weaves and ebbs through waves of turmoil and heartbreak, reminiscent of RKCB or, at times, Glass Animals in the vocals. And the back half felt like if Frank Ocean was somehow more minimalist. I gotta say though, the intro to Goliath was actually a really good use of Lars Ulrich's drum set. Now, I appreciate what this is, but it did not connect with me. Not for me, no rating. And Harlow, by my God-moding paw, received a treasure. Trout Mask Replica by Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band.
Remind me of the coming of your doom. I want my own. Take my hand.
A squid eating dough in a polyethylene bag is fast and bulbous.
Mets, what the fuck is this? So I've been tasked to review Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band's Trout Mask Replica from 1969. At first listen, I figured it was one of those weird little hippie underground albums of the era and that it was stored in the Library of Congress, named as one of the best usually, produced by Frank Zappa. Well, that explains it. I never really listened to stuff like this before. It's like a weird mishmash of quality, and by quality I don't mean subjective or artistic, but literally sound quality. Sure, there's songs that do sound nice and decent usually, and then there's stuff like China Pig, which is you grab the jankiest USB microphone and then just put 10 socks over it that it sounds so muffled that it's just what are you even playing? Theme wise, of course, it's also all over the place. We have this song thirsting about this fast and bulbous girl, then this song that is just literally a studio conversation we recorded and put on the album, and on the third song, Hitler and Holocaust bad. Not to mention that there are some songs that are technically a cappella, but I would call it more that they forgot to plug the music input on. On some tracks, I get a little bit of an alternate acid-filled Lemmy Kilmister from Motorhead. And on other times, I get reminded of that SpongeBob episode where Patrick commissions a song that's so bad that it killed the entire band. Recently, I heard the story of this band called The Shacks, which were basically three sisters just sequestered at home, forced to play music without any sort of input or professional training. And honestly, same energy. Overall, it's a very absurdist album that sounds that not just what's left on the cutting room floor, but more so than what's left in the dumpster of the fish market at 6 p.m. Are there songs that are gonna be on rotation for now? No. but it was a fun, weird, absurdist listening that showed me a little bit of the history of those times. So for someone that enjoys a little bit of oddities sometimes, it was a fun experience to listen to. And I honestly hope you enjoy S16 by Woodkid. It's a little out of character for me when it comes to my own music intake, but Woodkid is an artist I would follow to the ends of the earth.
Following that insanity, we have Jack Fex, who sent me Big Science by Laurie Anderson.
Hi. I'm not home right now, but if you want to...
So I was today years old when I learned that there's a good version of Liz Phair's Fun Style that came out in... This came out in 1982? This sounds like it came out in the mid to late 2000s and would almost certainly be cited as someone's favorite album. It's avant-garde, bizarre, and at times schizophrenic, such as on the song Walk the Dog.
I heard a song by a doll lady. Pardon. And she was singing...
Oh Superman was a clear standout to me, being the main single from the album, but every song on here is memorable in its own way. Like, no song was forgotten on second listen. Now, that's not to say the entire album works, though. Song 3, Sweaters, was not particularly sonically pleasing. I'm not super huge on her going, ah, like a bagpipe for 3 minutes. And there were a few meandering and otherwise kind of mid moments, but this was actually otherwise a huge surprise. Did not expect to love this as an experience as much as I did, and if I'm being conservative, 8 out of 10, 8.5 on a good day. I loved this. And Jack Fex got the album Welcome by Taproot.
Hiya, my name's Jack Fex. I'm super happy to be here, so thanks for including me. I sent Mex the album Big Science by Laurie Anderson because it's weird and it makes me happy. The album I got in return was Welcome by Taproot. Musically, the album fits so perfectly in that early 2000s Mad at My Dad rock era like Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, or Korn. In fact, it felt really nostalgic listening to this album despite having never heard it before because I grew up in that era. Taproot really likes to alternate between heavy distortion and then softer vocals and cleaner guitars, creating that distinct early 2000s vibe.
My dad sucks.
All of the songs are a little too repetitive to me. I really feel like the whole album would be better if you cut out the last 3 songs and cut down a minute or so from each of the remaining songs. The whole thing kind of overstays its welcome. But I get that in that time, everything had to fit into that very specific type of format, 3 to 4 minute songs that follow an intro, verse, chorus, breakdown, chorus pattern, and each album having to be about 12 songs long for some reason. There's a story of sorts to the album that builds as it progresses of a young man struggling to accept and understand himself in a broken world with some hope coming through and some genuine insights to how we see ourselves shining out, but by the last leg of the album, it just kind of doesn't resolve. To narrativize the album for a moment, it starts off harsh and heavy, edgy and dark, lots of distortion and screaming, and by a little bit before the album's midway point in the song Art, it feels like we're having a realization about ourselves, a glimmer of why we're so confused and hurt inside. But then comes the song Fault, and we're relapsing into our worst, most self-destructive tendencies. We start to climb back up in the song sometimes, but after this it feels like the theme of self-discovery and healing gets lost and we kind of just ramble out the last few songs. The first half of the album is definitely the strongest. By the back third of the album, I was feeling like it was dragging on a bit. A few of the songs really just felt like generic nu metal music. However, the 2 standout songs for me are Everything, for it's just pure fun and drive. It has a great rhythm and is really a fun song to just grab onto and ride through. The other standout is Art, more so for its lyrics rather than its music, though I do really appreciate that out of the entire album, Art feels the most hopeful, which goes well with the lyrics of the song. Overall, I had a really fun time listening to this, and I'm super grateful to be included in Mex's video. So thanks for watching, and hit that subscribe button! Follow Eyeball7 on all socials! I said do it!
Another friendo, Landon Yeen, sent me the album Post by Jeff Rosenstock. Like I said, I'd be honest with myself and with my audience regardless of if I like the album or not. If I dislike the album, even if that's an unpopular opinion, I'd not lie in that regard to save face or seem more reputable. Of course, at the end of the day, I'm not a music critic. I'm simply a music fan who seeks out good and interesting music, but experiences music in their own unique way. Case in point, I love pop punk and emo, but I was not crazy about this. And after the first 2 listens, I think I put a finger on why. It's very messy, but earnest in its approach, and Rosenstock always seems to sing like he's on the verge of crying, reminiscent of Dylan Slocum of Spanish love songs. But Dylan understates things where Jeff oversells them. A lot of songs, especially on the choruses, are about a semitone off key from what I feel like they should be. Like, there's a good song in there, especially on the song USA, and I appreciate the messaging of a lot of his tracks, like the sentiment of screaming out to the powers that be to say, we're not gonna get kicked around and take it lightly, we're gonna fight. But they feel like they should be sung in a different way, or would work with a different singer or a cleaner presentation. And there are times when the song feels like it could use like a belt or a drawn out vocalization, but the song keeps haphazardly tripping over itself by shoving the next lyric segment in there early. I feel like for what it's trying to do, it does stick the landing, but I just have come to the conclusion I just do not like Jeff Rosenstock as a singer. If you like Pup or Glass Beach specifically, I would recommend this, but it certainly is not for me. 5 out of 10. Landon was sent The Lost Years by The Strike.
Hello everyone, Landon Hyena here, and I'm so honored to get involved in this fun little album exchange of Mex's. Mex has tasked me with reviewing The Lost Years by The Strike, and the first thing that came to mind when hearing this was 80s. Yeah, I'll be real when I say I'm not the biggest fan of the 80s, when it comes to comparing decades of music especially. Heavy synth-based power ballads aren't really my thing, typically. So considering that's what this album plasters all over its sleeves as its inspiration, you would think that I'd be ready to, like, crap all over it. But, you know, you'd be wrong, because there's a lot to appreciate here. Masterful production and a beautiful catalog of self-affirming lyrics really go a long way in charming me to this album. I can't say I'm partial to this kind of music, but I'm beyond impressed with its attention to detail in crafting these instrumentals to match the style of the 80s synth. The vocals are beautifully produced, and these ballads really use the self-affirming energy to give each song presence and thematic consistency. Overall, not for me in style alone, but if you love the 80s power ballads, don't hesitate to give it a listen immediately. I give The Lost Years a 7 out of 10, and I hope Mex enjoys my pick Post by Jeff Rosenstock.
Mort?
Mex, hi.
What are you doing?
You see, I was hungry, there was crumbs there. I gotta stay around somehow.
But Mort, why are you crumbing? No Nut November isn't over yet.
Oh, I see. This is a video. Must be album exchange time. What do you got for me?
A gift straight from my heart. You see, I thought of you and figured you could lose a few more brain cells. So I give you Friendville by Sunrise Skater Kids.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. It's kind of hard for me to look at this album objectively because, like, I have had several songs from this masterpiece pounded into my head incessantly over the last 4 to 5 years, thanks to Mex's Trainwreck Theater meme night stream. Twitch.tv/ibolto7 to join us. Anyways, for those not part of the cult, Sunrise Skater Kids is a parody pop-punk band by songwriter, producer, and at the time lead vocalist Jared Along. Think of acts like Blink-182, or old school Fall Out Boy, or some acts from the label fueled by ramen, like Cobra Starship. Musically, this 16-track album is almost a good and honest pop-punk romp in its own right, but then you have songs like Flute Song, aka Goodbye Baltimore.
I'll play the flute for money.
Or Take It Easy Core. Or Rilo Ken, a song about the literal plot to Star Wars The Force Awakens. Could you imagine if there was somebody out there that listens to this song regularly out of context? Or Rain on My Parade, a parody of the song Miserable at Best by Mayday Parade.
The ice inside your heart sends a shiver down my cock.
Fun fact, I was today years old to find out that Mex didn't know this.
Got to see your boob.
There's even a song in here called Nothing Special that sings about being a filler song in the middle of an album. No, really. I see you, Mr. Along. BT dubs, I'm totally requesting this the next meme night. Oh, this is the Sunrise Skater Kid song.
Yes, it's a filler!
I will say that with the ironically called trigger warning, your mileage may vary with this song depending on your sense of humor. It's clearly intended to be tongue-in-cheek, but I do potentially see some people genuinely not liking. Most of the joke songs range from pretty funny to just outright hilarious. For a joke album, there's genuine good playing, singing, energy, and love put into this. However, like much of its contemporaries, I get tired of the happy-go-lucky sounding pop-punk very easily. This is less of a problem with Sunrise Skater Kids and more of a me thing, but at 16 songs and an hour long, I will probably just continue to listen to these songs how I generally do. At random, on stream, and probably very much at my chagrin that Take It Easy Corp landed on a cutscene again for the 11 billionth time. I don't really think objectively rating this is appropriate because at this point almost half of this album is ingrained into my ethos, but if I had to rate, I'd say this gets a 7 days since I see your face out of 10. Whoa, hold up just a second, Mex. Can you zoom in on the album cover? Over there, is that a corgi? 13 out of 10. For the album that I'm giving Mex to review, it's a different choice compared to my usual taste in music. Around the turn of the millennia, this little concert venue in New York City by the name of
Webster Hall
started putting out little trance music compilation albums. A song called Into Space happened to catch my mom's attention around 2001, and she decided to purchase the album based on that one song alone. It's called Transworld All-Stars Volumes 1 and 2, DJ Tom vs. DJ Mind X. The album that I picked was DJ Tom's Set Volume 1, the one with the Into Space song on it. The DJ Mind X one never really caught on with me, but the DJ Tom one to this day usually starts my road trips if I don't start with Nonagon Infinity by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Will Mex find this album to be an interesting trance dance journey into the galaxy where he will drift into space and discover music as the universal language? Or will this end up just sounding like I have run out of song request core? Let's find out and see.
Mort, I think after all the roasting I've subjected my watchers to on the albums they've sent me, there's only one correct way I can review the album my best friend sent me. Transworld All-Stars is so of its time I can smell the tag Midnight, the residue of the glass bottle version of Sobe Liz Blizz clinging to someone's t-shirt, and the faint lingering miasma of the inside of a Spencer's where someone had recently used one of the hookup fog dispensers. I can hear the album on the expressway late at night, blasting out of the windows of a gold Chevy Cavalier with a hubcap missing, and the speakers crackle when the bass kicks up too high. I feel like an equivalent trade-off to experiencing this album would be to put on a gas mask and get my flashlight and go exploring inside of a Hollister. DJ Tom's Transworld All-Stars, the official soundtrack of gay men who use Touch of Grey. DJ Tom's Transworld All-Stars, for people who have at least one track by 009 sound system saved to their library. DJ Tom's Transworld All-Stars, for people who have had this desktop background on their PC as a teen, because by the time this art came about, you were already legal to drink. Anyways, this album was pretty good and easy on the ears as an old trance album, but I probably won't revisit it. 6 out of 10. How was that?
This review warms my heart like getting shot in the heart, Hyrule Castle style, by a giant cybernetic elephant firing its lasery scourge while a generic dubstep beat drops in the background because somebody accidentally ran out of song requests. Thank you for releasing me. Until next time, regular Weasel Reviews.
I appreciate everybody watching this far to the end. Once again, my Patreon link and tip links are in the description, but if you can't swing any kind of monetary donation right now, I completely understand. Just feel free to drop a comment below. Tell me what album you would like to review if you were actually to get the opportunity to be in here. I would be happy to talk about whatever albums in the comment section y'all have planned, and you might end up picking something that I love. So just go ahead and let me know down there. Drop a like on this video and hit the subscribe button. I post all kinds of stuff, not just music. We do racing stuff here. We talk about furry shit all the time. So, hey, if you just want to chill with me here, I appreciate that. Once again, thank you all for watching this far. Until next time, take it wheezy.